If you're a health or a life coach who likes to hear what goes on behind the scenes of other people's businesses and in their lives, then today's episode of the show is going to be so good for you because I'm sharing all of the juicy details, all of the stuff that's been going on for me in my business, some life stuff as well. In 2025, I'm going to share the lessons that I've learned, my income, what I've got planned for 2026 and more. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help heart-centered and highly sensitive health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses, and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show, I'm sharing, as I said in the intro, all of the juicy details of what I've been doing behind the scenes in my life and business in 2025. So I did do an episode of the show kind of halfway through the year in June, and I will link to that, where I kind of shared a bit more detail of the first half of the year. So I will talk a bit more about that again, but you can also go back and listen to that. And this is also just to say this is part of a very long running series of kind of business and life reviews that I've been doing, first of all in blog format and then as part of this show. And if you link to the blog post that accompanies this episode, you will see all the links going back to like 2012 or something ridiculous. So anyone who's really interested in my life story, if you want to be, you can go back and check all that out. And it is really, to be fair, for me to look back on those is really quite amazing because I can really see what my journeys look like and, you know, all the things that I've been through for a long time, and really being able to read your own words back from what you've been through is really interesting. So for anyone else who wants to start doing something like this, I would definitely recommend it. So yes, let's get into it. This is one of my favourite episodes to do because it is nice to share all of these details that I don't often kind of go into on the show. So 2025, what a year it's been. I think it's been a fantastic year. There's been many good things. There's been some really difficult things, which I'm going to talk about more in like the life stuff when I get onto that personally. But business-wise, it has been it probably has been my best ever year in business, without a doubt. And I'm even more proud of that, given that I've had personal things to deal with as well. So it's been a fantastic year business-wise. I'm going to keep glancing at my notes because I am actually looking at the planning workbook that I created, that I shared on the 2026 planning episode of the show. So I'm going to link to that again. If you haven't already done that, please go and check it out. I'm actually going through some of the questions. I do that workbook as well, and it's really helpful. So kind of looking back through the plans that I made for this year. So again, I went through this process of planning back in 2024, and all of the different things that I listed out that I wanted to achieve, all of the different goals and things that I had. So when I planned for 2025, I intentionally wanted to keep it fairly simple. And in terms of the amount of stuff that I was trying to do, and looking back at the things that I did, I actually did pretty well. I achieved a good amount of the different things that I had on that list, in terms of things like I wanted to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which I have done. Things that I didn't quite hit, like I wanted to hit 10,000 downloads of the podcast. I got to 7,900 and something. I think I have got that written down somewhere. I wanted to grow my email list to 7,000 people. I did not get to that. I cleaned it, and then it's been under 4,000. So there's things that I haven't quite achieved business-wise. Other things that I have pretty much have achieved, and I'll get onto more of the numbers in a second. But I said on this show last year when I was reviewing 2024, that my goal for 2025 was to hit between 60 and 70k. And that's in pounds, not dollars. And I think last year I did actually convert to dollars, and I haven't had the chance to do that. So between 60 and 70k, and that's in UK pounds. And I have done that. I am currently on, and again, I will get to the numbers, 65 something over there, 65k. So I'm right bang in the middle of that. And that's the most that I've ever made in my business. I'm really excited about hitting that goal. Absolutely over the moon about it. So I have just quickly looked up what that is in dollars. So I've hit about $89,000 in the business this year, which I'm really chuffed with. And again, I'm going to break down some of that income stuff as well. So I've achieved that goal, which I was really excited about. Some personal goals that I had, I've also achieved. And again, I'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the personal stuff. I'm just really happy with where I've gotten to. It's been really great, and it's like, especially business-wise, you know, another one of the goals that I had was to have more people in Wholehearted Business, having a bigger chunk of my income coming through Wholehearted Business, because that is more sustainable for me. And that has happened. So I will talk about that when we get to the numbers. So in terms of the goals that I set for 2025, I've done pretty well, like not all of them, but I've done pretty well at achieving the big ones that I had. So I'm really happy with that. And just to go through some of the things that I did in 2025 in terms of the business. So the key things that I was selling were my one-to-one coaching and mentoring package, my Wholehearted Business, my amazing group program, my kind of signature main offer, Wholehearted Business, which launches twice a year, which is a 12-month program. I also created and sold the Searchable Show method. So I was really excited to do this because I already had a course that kind of touched on it, but wasn't in depth enough, I feel, for what I wanted it to be. And I also wanted something to kind of incorporate, I had a course called Blog School. I've done a lot of courses around the content creation side, but there's something very specific about the way that I approach the creation of this show and the way that I teach stuff in the Searchable Show method, because it's not just about having content that is found through search. It's also about creating content that creates connection, trust, that nurtures people, like it ticks so many boxes. So creating the Searchable Show method was really amazing, and launching that and selling that, and I delivered that live over the summer. That was really amazing, really enjoyed that. As part of the launches of Wholehearted Business, I did 2 different conversion events, which was really interesting as well. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot through doing those. So in September, I did a really great one that was like Voxer based, and that was really interesting to run, and I really enjoyed doing that. I also ran my first collaboration, so I did Search and Connect back in June time, and it was a learning experience. I've actually got an episode of Michelle Ponver's podcast, which I've recorded with her, where I talk a bit more about my experience with that and the challenges that I had with that at times. But I did it, and I was really proud of myself for doing it, for actually running a collaboration. And it came right after a really difficult personal patch that I was in, but I was really proud of myself for running it. So we did that, and kind of then lots of other like smaller little offers that I've created ad hoc have also happened as well. But it's just been like, it hasn't felt overwhelming or crazy or anything. It's just felt really like simple and straightforward to run the business this year, basically. I've been doing a lot of experimentation with ads. I had some really great quality ads running on Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. They've brought lots of new people into my world. They've worked really well, and pushing myself to do that has been a really big thing as well. So just to kind of explain what my business looks like right now, because this is really how it's going to continue into 2026, is that I have my one-to-one coaching and mentoring offer that's available all the time. I will talk more about it at different times of the year, but that's basically available for people to access whenever, unless I'm fully booked. Then we have Wholehearted Business, which I launch twice a year, and that runs for 12 months at a time, and people can stay on if they want to for a little bit longer. So we'll have that. Then, like I say, we had the Searchable Show method, and then I have like the other courses and programs and stuff that kind of sit underneath that. And at different times I will bring them out and sell them and do different things. But really the bulk of the things that I've been doing this year have been the one-to-one coaching and mentoring and Wholehearted Business, of course. I have also had a couple of more design-based clients. So I don't do a lot of design work now, and design work is basically branding and website design. It is something I really love doing. So I will take on, rarely take on a couple of clients with this. So I think I've had 2 clients this year where I've been doing that kind of work. So that's been really fun just to kind of have in the mix as well. So that's kind of what my business is structured like, and that's going to continue. I don't see any reason to change that. It's working really well for me, and I just feel like we've got a really good flow kind of going through the year with that, and that the offers that I've got are kind of meeting people's needs right now. So that's been really great. And then in terms of the income breakdown, so I'm going to just look at my little sheet. So my income, as it currently is right now, which is like the 11th of December as I record this, is £65,704. And that is a big increase on 2024, which was 53k. So it has absolutely increased going into this year, which is amazing. So I'm really happy with that. The expenses that I had, so these are expenses that are not including the wages or the dividend that I've paid myself, was £20,000. So that includes taxes, that includes paying for all of the different things that I've got going on. So everything else on top of that has been profit, and I'm carrying forward a really healthy cash flow balance into 2026, which is amazing. Again, I think I talked last year about feeling safe, like my nervous system feeling financially safe, and this year's really embedded that for me. It's been really amazing, and I think it's so important for me, being a single mother, being the only person who is keeping this show going. It's essential, really. It's not just a nice to have thing, it is essential. I can't not have that now, and I'll talk a bit more about my single motherhood as we get into the life bit, but it's really important that I have that. And then in terms of where my income's come from, so one-to-one mentoring was about £13,000 and last year it was 24k. So it's really drastically changed. However, it's gone in the right direction. And when I realised this, I was really chuffed because when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God. And then when I realised how it shifted to a more sustainable place for me, then I was really happy. One-to-one bespoke office design work was £7,000 and that's up on £4,000 in 2024. Other areas of work where I'll do contract kind of coaching work, that was £10,000. Wholehearted Business brought in £20,000 this year, which is amazing. Last year it brought in £12,500. Clarity Calls, that brought in £700. Courses and programs, that was £5,500. I don't know if these all add up because I'm rounding them up, by the way. Affiliate income was £100, not very much on affiliate income, and that was all of the main bits of income that I had coming in. So again, like I say, just to give you a bit of an insight in terms of what that breaks down like, but I was really kind of shocked and delighted to see the shift in terms of where the money was coming in bulk. I mean, obviously I've had a little bit more in the bespoke office design work's been coming in, and like the kind of contracted coaching that I do with through other specific, it's basically income that doesn't come in through my traditional coaching packages. That's obviously still a really big chunk as well. But to see so much come through Wholehearted Business has been really amazing. So I'm over the moon about that. And I love that program. I love delivering it. I love how it's structured. All of that jazz is good. So there we go. So that's what 2025 looked like. There's the income breakdown, a bit of the expenses breakdown. I mean, out of that £20,000, I think I said about £7,000 of that was taxes. So that's kind of what that looks like. And then in terms of like lessons learned, I think the lessons that I've learned in 2025, business-wise, I probably still bite off a little bit more than I can chew. I think I will always have more goals than I necessarily will be able to achieve. And I think there's still an element of, in this phase of life that I'm in, like I say, still having, young children, being a single mother, all of that kind of stuff, I still think that there's only so many hours in the day that I've got, that I want to work, that I have to work, and there's always going to be stuff that falls off the to-do list. So things like I really want to build out a much better funnel this year, and I haven't done that. I wanted more low-ticket offers, and I haven't done that. Those kind of things. I think part of the lesson that I've learned is like, I'm accepting kind of where I'm at right now, and I need to double down on what I've actually got that's working. And right now, all of this stuff is working. So I don't feel like, I think last year I was feeling a bit stretched, and I did have that goal of wanting to transfer more of my income coming through Wholehearted Business and one-to-one mentoring. And I love working with people one-to-one, but sustainability wise and the amount of hours that I work wise, Wholehearted Business is a much better place for the bulk of my income to be coming in from. And it also shows up my cash flow as well. So that made a lot of sense. And I think like in terms of like other lessons, I'm just looking at what I've written down, there's still some kind of like things that I need to put in place that are systems based and also boundaries based. So what I've written down is what I've noticed is that towards the end of the year, I feel like my boundaries have started to slide a little bit in terms of like when I'm available, when I'm responding to messages. Like I used to always have Fridays off. That isn't happening so much anymore. So I need to kind of figure out a bit of a better structure. I mean, a lot of what I've put down on my workbook around moving forward, and I will talk about this obviously in a second, is like I want to revisit my actual daily, weekly routines, because that's the foundation of our lives, isn't it? Like what we do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is what happens. So I really want to focus on that a little bit more. And I think part of that is about the boundaries, about when I'm working, when I'm not, having better systems in place to support my clients, because that is always my highest priority. Like my absolute highest priority in my business is making sure that clients feel seen and supported. And whenever I feel like that is slipping a little bit for me, and I really hope that none of my clients ever experience what that is, but whenever I feel that I'm not quite as on it as I want to be, that stresses me out a lot, because that's my highest priority. So I want to have better systems that kind of enable that support to happen for people, and to make sure that people are feeling seen and supported. So, and to structure my week better, so that is more of a priority, and that it's kind of all getting done. So that's the lessons that I've learned from that perspective. So yeah, those are kind of the main things. And I think kind of like on a much, wider basis, I mean, one of the things that I did want to do in 2025 was to come back onto social media a little bit more, because I genuinely kind of enjoyed it. But then that didn't happen so much. I kind of came back a little bit on Instagram, and then I did one article on Substack, and then just didn't do any more. So again, I have these like grand plans to do things, and in reality I just don't have the bandwidth to add them in. So I need to be really honest with myself about what I can handle in this phase of life, and also kind of what feels comfortable. And I'll talk about some of the stuff that I've been navigating personally and what felt like, what the barriers have been to me showing up on social media, for example, with a bit more of like the behind the scenes stuff that's been going on. So that's all really interesting learnings as well for me. The collaboration event was really interesting, and I think when I did the collaboration event, I felt there was a lot of imposter syndrome, and I thought I'd really nailed that. I thought I'd gotten over it in a big way. You know, like I've got 200 odd episodes of the Wholehearted Business Show under my belt. Like I've talked about coaching businesses inside out and back to front. Like I know my shit. Like I absolutely know my shit. And I still felt some imposter syndrome and some discomfort around putting that together. And that was a really interesting thing that I need to take into next year and really think about, well, how do we actually address this? And how do I support myself through those like residual bits of imposter syndrome that I still have, so that I can really step into like this person who is a very experienced business owner with a very successful business. And actually I need to stop my own bullshit. So that was a big lesson learned as well. And really, just to kind of summarise 2025, you know, from a business point of view, as I said at the start, it has been a fabulous year, like genuinely, in a year where a lot of other people have really struggled. And a lot of what I've heard in online business spaces is that some people have found 2025 really tough. And that has not been my story. And I don't think there's anything magical that I've done differently. I think for some reason, I mean, I'm saying that, I don't think there's anything magical that I've done differently. If there was anything that I was going to identify that I have done differently in 2025 that has helped me book that trend, I think it's been really fucking consistent with everything. Like the Wholehearted Business Show is really consistent. Like for a foundational thing that I do, I think that this provides so much for my business. Like I absolutely adore this show. I love creating it. I love sharing it. Like I think that this consistency is really important. I think some of the tweaks that I've made to my messaging, so certainly kind of like having that awareness that, you know, I do feel like I'm really well placed to support people in that highly sensitive, heart-centered, neurodiverse kind of space. And that's something going into next year I want to get more qualifications and training on, because I want to know that I'm really well placed to support people. But I think that's been really beneficial as well. And I think it's just been keeping it quite simple and still having a business that is built on offers that ultimately are very high touch. I think the people who maybe have struggled a bit more have businesses that are built on more passive, you know, kind of like courses, self-study stuff, things like that. Whereas my business is still built on more of the high touch stuff. But I've made that sustainable for me to deliver and run on. So if I identify why I feel like my business has been amazing this year, I think it would be that, if I had to, you know, hit the nail on the head. And then going into some of the more like personal stuff. So as I've mentioned on the show, I think I mentioned on the show that we got halfway through the year, that I've linked to kind of like the halfway review. I had a massive thing happen in that my marriage has ended. So I separated from my husband. We separated actually back in 2024. I didn't talk about it then because obviously it was very personal. It was very raw. It was all very happening at that time. And then he didn't move out until July. And obviously it's been a very challenging thing to work through. It has not been pleasant. No marriage breakdowns ever are. We still have a really good co-parent relationship. He spends time with the children in this house. So we kind of do the nesting thing. You know, it's obviously without wanting to, I mean, I could talk a lot about this and where I've been at with all of this and what led to it and all that kind of stuff. But I can't do that. I don't want to do that, to be respectful of my ex, who is a lovely person. But ultimately, it's been 100% the right thing. And yeah, it's obviously had like a massive impact on my life. And I think where I am now in terms of, you know, because obviously my business is the thing that is supporting all of this. And I've got 2 children. I've got an 11-year-old and an almost 6-year-old, and I've got a house and a mortgage, and I've got food to put on the table and stuff. And I'm just so, like, literally every morning that I wake up, I'm just filled with so much gratitude for the fact that I can do this on my own. And I know that I've worked hard to be able to get in a position to be able to do this, but like I still just feel so fucking grateful that I get to do this, because my life is better than I think I could have ever imagined it to be. I've got I've got a wonderful business that I absolutely love showing up for. I've got the best clients ever. I love my house. Like, we've just redecorated upstairs. Like, I've got a beautiful house. I've got the best friend. Like, I've got, honestly, the best friends. I can't even explain. I've got the most amazing friendships. I've made new friends this year. You know, I know what I like. I know who I am. I actually like myself. Like, you know, at the age of 43, I actually like who I am. Really like who I am. You know, like, I've got my shit together with my health. Do you know what I mean? I'm not in this place where I'm like actively dieting, or, you know, I'm just kind of existing and being healthy in day-to-day life, and it's not a big deal. It's all just really good. And it feels weird saying it almost. It's like, it is just like in my personal life as well. And like I say, I've been through these really big challenges. That the other challenge that I had was that my son Finley was diagnosed with epilepsy this year, and he's had health stuff happen. You know, he was born with a heart defect. He had to have open heart surgery when he was 8 weeks old, and he's had heart checkups all the way through his life. That's always been like a source of anxiety for me and worry for me. And then in October, he had his heart checkup, and he was actually discharged from the heart service. He was told, in fact, I just literally got a letter through the door confirming it all, but he was literally told he had a perfectly normally functioning heart, and he was discharged from the heart service. So that was amazing to kind of have that done, you know. And again, 2025 being the year of endings, like, that was done. But then we've also had this epilepsy diagnosis, which is linked to the heart defect, because they feel that the lesion in his brain that is causing the seizures is linked to the open heart surgery that he had. But the great news is he's had 2 seizures. After the second one, he's been medicated. The medication has no side effects. He's had no more seizures. All sorted. So kind of like it was like the first half of the year for me was really fucking challenging, with like my relationship stuff and the epilepsy stuff and Finley's, you know, health and stuff. And then the kind of the last half of the year, like, the personal stuff has just eased. And in numerology, again, I mentioned that in numerology, 2025 was a year of endings, closure, you know, letting things go. 2026 is a new beginning, which is very exciting. But personally as well, like, if you look at my personal numerology, I was in a 9-year as well up until my birthday in August, and then I'm in a 1-year, which kind of nicely reflects kind of where things have been at. So personally, lots of challenges, big challenges, but on the other hand, so many amazing things that I'm massively grateful for. And yeah, just massively grateful for so much. And, you know, I've started dating, which is a whole other thing. I'm dating someone at the moment who is lovely, and we'll have to see where that goes, because obviously early dating is early dating. And, you know, my experience of dating has actually been really positive. Like, on the whole, yes, we've had a few interesting experiences, but on the whole, it's been really positive. But yeah, personally, 2025 has been a really great one. And again, like, I was looking back at all the photos on my phone, and I was just like, you know, like, over the summer, like, I just swam in the sea, I swam in the rivers and lakes, I went paddleboarding loads, I did loads of fun stuff with the kids, I went glamping, like, I just lived my life and did the things that I really love to do. And it's just been brilliant. It's absolutely been brilliant. And I've made new friends, and it's all just wonderful, basically. So while there's been some challenges, it's also been awesome. So there's a bit of a personal update for this year as well. And then going into 2026, this is a really interesting one for me, because for the first time, I think, like, so that I can remember, I don't feel like I have to completely make over my life. Going into 2026, I feel like there's nothing major. Like, I don't need to, you know, lose 3 stone. I don't need to completely change where I live or redecorate my entire house. There's nothing dramatic that needs to happen. And it feels kind of weird. There's nothing like major that I need to change about my business, you know. And actually going into 2026, I think what's been downloading for me recently is that there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think this is definitely something that's been brought into my mind with dating and things like that, because ultimately we don't have control over other people. We don't have control over how things are going to go. We can only control ourselves. And obviously this actually applies to many things in life. And I feel like one of the lessons that I need to take into 2026, and I think my word for 2026 is going to be flow, is that I fucking don't know what's going to happen. Like, I'm going into 2026 and I'm like, I really don't know. I mean, I've got an idea what I'm going to do with the business, and pretty much more of the same, in all honesty. I mean, there's definitely going to be some tweaks. There's definitely going to be some refinements, but ultimately it's going to be a very similar picture to what I've already done. There are some new things that I want to do. Definitely want to double down on ads. Definitely want to create some more new low ticket offers. There's a few things that I want to do. I want to run more kind of live trainings and webinars and things. So there's a few kind of tweaks, but ultimately the kind of core stuff that I've got, like, I'm really happy with. Again, in my personal life, I wouldn't say there's any like major, massive, big goals that I'm going towards. It's more like, let's just go paddleboarding more often again. Let's go do the wild swimming thing. Let's go and hike somewhere. Like, let's get a passport, because I haven't got a passport right now. Let's get a passport so I can actually fucking go abroad. It's more things like that. There's nothing majorly massive. But again, I think what I'm reminded of is that there's so much that we can't control. And I am that person, and I think a lot of us watching this show are going to be the same. I am that person where my nervous system is so dependent on feeling in control and feeling secure and feeling like I know what's going to happen. And the reality of life is that we can't be in that. And again, like, I think part of my experience with dating is being reinforcing this. Part of my experience with Finley's health has been reinforcing this. And the resilience to be able to manage the discomfort that comes with not being able to be in control, I think that is the lesson that I need to step into in 2026. I don't know what the hell that's going to look like. And I mean, obviously, I hope I don't have anything that's going to cause me like all this discomfort, all that kind of negative stuff. But actually, that is life. I'm always reminded of Brené Brown when I think of this, is that I want to be brave with my life. The stuff that's gone on with my relationship is an example of this. But like, what does being brave and courageous with my life look like? And that does not mean that I'm always going to know what the outcome's going to be. It means that I'm not always going to feel safe. How do I do the things that I need to do to be brave and courageous with my life and be vulnerable? Like, how do I embody all of that? How do I live that? How do I live and breathe that? Like, what does that look like? And I know this is like a really big kind of existential thing, but that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I think that is something that I want to live out in 2026. So while I've got like a few little things that I want to do, and I've got a few set goals that I have, a few set things that need to happen, that I need to do, and things that I want to do. And, the business is the business, and it's amazing. And I've got the flow and the pattern for the business, and that's fantastic. I think the overarching thing for me that I'm really aware of that I want to bring into this year is this: how can I sit with not being certain? How can I sit with the discomfort of not knowing exactly what's going to happen? How can I sit with the discomfort of not being in control? Because me trying to be in control around everything has not actually been that helpful. And I'm in a position now where I think I can start to explore what that looks like. So that's a really big thing, isn't it? God, as I talk through myself with this. But that's kind of what it looks like. But in terms of more like solid goals, things in the business, like I'd love to actually hit the 70k this year. Like I say, I'm really close. I've had the 70k goal for a little while. I definitely said last year it was more about hitting a certain amount to be able to pay myself each month, and I've hit that. So my next goals going forward, I've got 4 months worth of running costs kind of cash flowed and banked. I want that 6 months of actual running costs and what I would pay myself and all that kind of stuff banked in the business and secure. I would love to hit the 70k mark. I think that's a really good target for me to really try and hit next year. I'm in a great position to do that now. I'd love to grow my email list. I think 5,000 is probably a more realistic number, and 5,000 on a clean list. So I haven't got lots of people on there who aren't opening, but if I had a list of 5,000 people, that would be fantastic. Again, there's some systems and boundary stuff, and I really want to sit down and look at, again, the routine and pattern of my week and my month and my days, because I feel like that's ready for a bit of a shake up. So I'm quite excited to look at that. And yeah, I mean, those are like the key things, I think. Again, I've got some personal things like getting my passport sorted out, and then I've got the kind of flow of my business all set up. So I think flow is quite a nice word for 2026. That's kind of what I'm sitting with. I haven't decided on that yet, but I think that's what we're going to go for. So there we go. That's been a big download of everything. I really always love to know where everyone else is at. Like, do you resonate with 2025 being a year of endings and things closing out? And what does that look like for you? What are you really excited about for 2026? If you watch on YouTube, let me know in the comments what you've got planned for 2026, how 2025 has been for you. If you're listening on the podcast, please pop me a DM on Instagram. If any of this has resonated while I'm talking about all these big life things, please do let me know. Please pop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Wholeheartedly Laura. Tell me what you thought of this episode of the show. And this is the last episode for 2025. So I'll be back on the 5th of January 2026 with a brand new episode of the show. We're going to have our little 2-week winter solstice break, Christmas break, and then I'll be back. But as always, guys, just thank you again. I mean, just to say, I am massively grateful for everyone who engages with the show, who watches, listens, who shares it with other people that they know who would benefit from it. Like, thank you so much for being part of my little online community. I love all of you so, so much. It really means a lot. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in 2026. Take care, guys. Have a great rest of season. Bye.